Hello YouTubers, this is the noobifier. On Friday the 18th of June, there was an hour-long Star Citizen Live with the EU-PU team. Here's what you need to know about the show. The show had Dan, Jacob, and Thornton. Jared reminded us that we need to ask questions that are limited to the expertise that the team can answer. This team is focused on parts of many others, including mining, refinery, and some gameplay decisions that have to do with ships. They're also working on what was called the environmental gameplay decisions, so how tools, traps, and gadgets work, and these, for example, will add tension when searching derelicts or caves. Long-distance probing is an incoming system where we can get long-range probes, just like they do on many sci-fi shows and movies. These will identify points of interest and will have a finite flight time and fuel range. The way it was described was that the more probes are in one place, the better the triangulation location and fidelity. They plan to have broad and narrow probes. Signatures can then be researched based on previous knowledge to give you a better idea of what that object might be. They also reminded us that there's risk in jumping blind into a probed location without a clearer picture of the situation, because you may scan one javelin only to find out that there were also several squadrons of fighters in a low power state. The takeaway is that they plan to let us defend against scanning and probing by being creative, and that sounds fun. They confirmed that probing and scanning will be their own mechanics. They also confirmed that probing is still being brainstormed and concepted. Atmospheric depth damage is being worked on to keep players out of gas giants like Crusader. It can also in the future model for water, but then there was another point that was brought up that engines and thrusters may not operate well in water, so we actually ended up with more questions after our questions were answered. Looting is planned, but deeply attached to the law system, where finding isn't the same as stealing and not the same as being observed stealing over simply being in possession of a stolen object. Spawning lootable objects will be procedural based on whatever the developers define as appropriate to the cave or outpost, meaning in a washroom, you may find toiletries. If you're in a military warehouse, the containers may have guns or ammo. Containers will stack these tags, so weapons in a box within a pirate base would spawn low-tech weapons, and a weapon box in a high-tech research lab would spawn prototype high-tech weapons. This was also explained as a thing that they were only planning rather than a thing that was in active development. When released, personal scanning mechanics will show what a player or NPC has on them. They plan to have this as a one-to-one loot drop, so whatever's on their inventory, you should be able to loot when you drop them. These drops can include special mission items such as notes or keycards. Personal Harvestables are currently just a sellable item, but they want in the future to use those for crafting, and they didn't specifically mention it. However, it makes the most sense that when eaten, that might change your player actor status. Players will be able to grow Harvestables as part of farming. Station Refinery and Ship Refinery will not work the same and can yield different results. Player Refinery will be its own minigame where you need to decide exactly how you want to refine the raw material. You can refine in an incorrect order and destroy some of the value in the process. They spoke for a further 4 minutes brainstorming how choosing the process or knowing how to refine properly will reward the skillful player, and they plan that rather than a large quantity of low-quality gold, you would simply refine a lower yield of pure gold to somewhat simplify this gameplay. Refinery design is approved. Refinery is not in active development. The Starfarer refinery will work the same way, and refueling was the next topic. They confirmed that Starfarers can refuel each other, physical hoses will be used to transfer fuel, and possibly drones, but that's not currently being worked on. Fuel is going to require both ships to be at zero velocity, exactly like ship docking. However, they do have plans in the future to add fly mobile refueling. Pyro is barren and will rely on more players selling fuel delivery as a service, opening up risk of piracy and all of the other types of gameplay that come with that. There's nothing limiting refueling only to ships, so they may actually add that to land vehicles in the future. And they ended that segment by saying that fuel ports will need to be added to ships in the future to support the gameplay. Resource Management Backend was spoken about last year in October, and it required a full 6-month code refactor that's been ongoing. This is needed first as the common framework for many game loops, and they've confirmed that it's not something that we're going to see in the near future. Mining is in a good place now, and it's not complete, needing more work on FPS, and of course, it needs to be scaled up for the Orion when that's released. No date confirmed, as there are other priorities that need to be done first. They ended by saying that loot generation, atmospheric depth damage, and probing were the ones that they were most excited about. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.